more for marketing purposes. But welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Christina Caesar, and I manage marketing and communications at Synergy Technical. And I have the honor of introducing and moderating today's session. Introducing today's speaker and moderating today's session. Me. But today's webinar explores AI Builder with PowerApps. And Jeff, I think I've converted you to marketing because this is your 4th monthly webinar on the Power Platform in a row, I think, which, and I only know this because I got a sneak peek, is going to walk you through not only what AI Builder is, but what it can do for your organization by demoing it in action. Just a reminder, today's webinar is being recorded, and please drop any comments or questions in the Q&A function within Teams. And just a little bit about us. Synergy Technical is an IT consulting firm headquartered in Richmond, Virginia. We have clients in over 70 countries in all 50 states and manage over 3 million licenses of Microsoft 365 for our clients through our licensing and managed services practice. And now I have the pleasure of introducing today's speaker, Jeff Laus. Jeff is one of our best business analysts and SharePoint developers that specializes in the Power Platform suite. You can usually find him working on client projects and development, but like I said earlier, I'm so excited this will be Jeff's 4th live webinar on the Power Platform. And in case you missed last month's webinar on making sense of your data with Power BI, you can find the full recording on our YouTube channel, and I will also drop the link in his playlist in the chat. And with that raving introduction and a few of my own stumbles, I will hand things over to Jeff and we can get things going.
Sounds good. Thank you, Christina. Hey, everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Lau. Really excited to be here again. Thank you for attending. And I'm excited to share with you yet again another technology by Microsoft. And again, this technology is part of the Power Platform. As Christina mentioned, if you've been to my other webinars that I did on the Power Platform, they were really good as well. They were on Power BI, PowerApps, PowerAutomate, and Power Virtual Agents. And each of those you can find on our YouTube channel. But today we're going to be exploring something called AI Builder. And so this is not a primary tool of the Power Platform. Think of this more as a feature that you can utilize alongside the Power Platform. And so we're going to be taking a deeper dive into it today. What I want to first do is kind of give you some background on what AI Builder is, specifically what is AI. And of course, if you don't know, that stands for artificial intelligence. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of that, and then we'll spend the majority of time in a demonstration so you can see this tool in action, which I'm sure you're excited about. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just kind of explore the topic of AI. So what is artificial intelligence? And I have 2 definitions on the screen here, and I simply just want to read through these to give you a better idea of what kind of technology we're dealing with. So what is artificial intelligence? So AI is the capability of a computer to imitate intelligent human behavior. And through this AI, machines can analyze images, comprehend speech, interact in natural ways, and make predictions using data. And so we have artificial intelligence. We also have something called machine learning, which is pretty relevant when it comes to AI Builder. But what is machine learning? So this is a branch of artificial intelligence in computer science, which focuses on the use of data and algorithms to imitate the way that humans learn. And it does this by gradually improving its accuracy. So in summary, AI allows us to program computers in a way that gives them the ability to do things that typically only humans could do. And so machine learning is how we can actually go about teaching these computers how to do these human tasks. And so, all that may seem a little complex, especially as someone who's just not extremely technical and doesn't have a very technical background. And so that's where AI Builder comes into play, because AI Builder allows us to use this artificial intelligence technology, and you don't have to be extremely tech savvy in order to use it. So again, what is AI Builder? So this is, again, the capability that we find in the Power Platform that allows you to use artificial intelligence. And if you're unfamiliar with the Power Platform, this is simply those tools that I mentioned before, and they all allow you to create applications. And again, you don't have to be super tech savvy, or you don't have to know how to code. You don't have to know full programming languages in order to build applications. So I meant to briefly talk about that in the beginning, but now that you know that, now you know a little bit more about AI. What is AI Builder? So AI Builder gives us access to AI models that Microsoft has created for us. And so these models help you optimize and can make your business processes a lot more efficient. And so you can use these AI models that Microsoft gives us to automate processes and predict different outcomes. And so this can be really awesome. And I'll show you in the demonstration how exactly you can use all of these different models that Microsoft has already given us to work with. But one example of a business process that you might want to use AI Builder for, at your company, you might have a manual process that involves entering maybe sales data or any type of data into a database, or maybe entering into an Excel worksheet. Oftentimes those kind of tedious processes can take a long time. And maybe you want to spend that time doing more important tasks. You could use AI Builder to extract all of that information that you're manually entering, and you could have it automatically enter it for you. And so that's just one kind of scenario that you might want to use AI Builder for. And in our demonstration, we'll it's kind of along those lines. Another thing to note about AI Builder is the two types of models that we can use inside of the tool. We have what we call pre-built models, and these again are the ones that Microsoft has already created for us to use. So right out of the box, you can utilize them, and you don't have to do any further customization. You can use them right away. But sometimes your business use case or scenario is a little more complex and may involve a little more specific, specific kind of scenarios that you might want to use custom models for, and that's the second type of model that's available to us in AI Builder. And so in the demo today, we're actually going to be creating a custom model, and I'll kind of take you through the steps that it takes to actually create one of these. And so I want to go ahead and jump into a demonstration so you can kind of see what this tool is used for. Of course, I think demonstrations are a lot better than just reading a bunch of slides. So you can actually see this tool in action. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be building a receipt scanner using one of the AI models in AI Builder. And so if you look at this first picture I have here, you can kind of see how we're going to be creating this scanner. We're going to be providing the model with some sample data. In our case, it's going to be different receipts. And so we want to extract different pieces of information from this receipt, such as the store name, the address, all those different items that you have purchased, along with the prices of each of those. And so we could take out all of this information by using an AI model that we're going to create. And so once we go ahead and create the model that extracts this information, I'm also going to show you how we can utilize this model inside of a Power App. And I'll also show you how we can utilize it in a PowerAutomate workflow. So those are two other tools in the Power Platform. So if you're not familiar with those, it's okay. I'll give you a brief kind of understanding of those once we get along in the demo. But this is what we're going to be creating today, give you a better idea of how powerful AI Builder can be. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to my desktop here. And so I'm just on the office.com homepage. You can navigate to AI Builder by going to PowerApps.com or PowerAutomate.com. Both places you can access AI Builder. So I'm going to access it today through PowerApps. So I'm just going to go to my apps and select PowerApps. Second to load here. If we look at the tabs over here on the left-hand side, we'll see AI Builder is on the bottom there, and I'll just select it. And there's two tabs called Explore and then Models. So all the models that you create will be in this tab here. But let's go ahead and go to the Explore. And so when you come here, you'll see all the different models that Microsoft has given us here, and you can kind of explore the different data types that each of these models uses. So for instance, this first one, extract information from invoices. So if I click on this model, we can read a little bit more about what this model does and what it's used for. Oh, exit out of that. But you can also see some screenshots of how this model is being used. So it looks like we have some sales invoices here. And so this model is going to give you the ability to extract information from these sales invoices. And if we look over here, we can see something called extracted information. And all of that information inside of this sales invoice has been extracted. And so we could go ahead and use this in a PowerAutomate flow right away. We don't have to do any other customizations to it. And so this is one of those pre-built models. But there are tons of models that you can go ahead and read more about and use. And unless it doesn't say customized model, then you know it's a pre-built model that you can use right away. But again, today we're going to be creating that receipt scanner. And you can see that we have a model here called extract information from receipts. And so if I select this, we can see here that this model will allow us to go ahead and take all these different elements out of our receipt here. And so again, this is a pre-built model. As you can see up here, it says pre-built model. And so this model is going to work for general receipts. So no matter what store that you go to, this should be able to take out different pieces of information on that receipt. I'm sure you've been to stores before, and all the receipts have kind of a different format. They don't always have the same format. So this AI model will be able to take care of all those types of formats. But in our case today, we're going to be creating a customized version of this receipt model. And so in our example, I actually have a couple receipts from a store that I shop at called Aldi's. And so I want to create an AI model that's specific to those receipts. And so the way I can do that is you can see up here, it says to recognize information that's specific to your business. In our case, specific to our receipt type, we can go ahead and create a custom model based on those receipts. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one, so we can read more about it, and then we can go ahead and get started down here. And so what this is going to do is it's going to take me through the process of creating one of these custom models. And so the first thing I need to do is tell the model what type of data that we're dealing with. So we're either dealing with structured documents or unstructured. If I select unstructured, we can see here gives us an example, in this case, a rental agreement. So we can see this is just simple paragraphs of information. So pretty unstructured, because of course there can be a lot more paragraphs here. And it even says, I think, some other examples here like contracts, statements of work, different letters. So just unstructured data. So you'd want to choose this option here. In our case, we're dealing with receipts, and typically, depending on what store you go to, it'll all stay the same format, the receipts will. So that's where we're going to choose structured documents. And in this case, we're using receipts. Just for an example, it's an easy example to kind of show you how AI Builder works. But of course, you could use things like sales invoices, as you can see here, or any document that you have maybe laying around your office that you want to extract that information and place it somewhere, maybe a database or something like that. You can do that. But in this case, we're going to use receipts. All right, so I'm going to choose structured documents, and I'm going to click next. And so now we want to go ahead and tell our model what information do we want to extract from those receipts. So it says list all the information that you want your AI model to extract from your documents. So such as name, address, total amount. So I can go ahead and click add. And there's a couple different things that I can add: fields, checkboxes, tables. We don't really have any checkboxes in our receipt, but we have a lot of fields that we want to extract. So I'm going to select field. The first piece of information we want to take out, maybe the store name. I'll just type in store name. And I'll just do this for each piece of information that I want to extract. So let's also get the store address. This would be nice to get the total amount as well. The last field we can get is the purchase date. Right. So we have those different fields that we want to extract from the receipt, but we also want to take out all the different items that we purchased along with their prices. So the way we can do that is by, instead of choosing field, we want to choose the single page table. Because if you think about it, those items and the prices, it's kind of like a table. We have a first column with all of our purchased items, and then to the right of it we have all of the prices. So it'd be best to extract that as a table. So I can select table here. I'll just give it a name. We'll just call this items table. Doesn't really matter. And then so our first column, we're just going to give it a name other than column 1. We'll just call this items. And then, of course, next to our items is our prices, right? So I can say price. And that's all we need to do to create our table. All right, so now that we have all of the fields and the tables that we want to take out of our receipt, we can go ahead and continue to the next step here. All right, and so in this step, we're actually going to provide our model with some sample data. So in this case, we're using receipts. So I'm going to upload some receipts to this model. And so here you can see I added a new collection. And I'm just going to call this collection all these receipts. And so in this case, we're just going to be using all these receipts. So maybe you also want this model to work with target receipts and other receipts. You can create new collections with those receipts as well. You just need to keep in mind that each collection is going to each collection needs to have the same formatted receipt. That's why we're creating this collection with just all these receipts. And so I'm going to go ahead and upload those receipts that I have from my computer here. And so I'll just select all of my receipts and upload them. And so keep in mind that you need at least 5 sample receipts or sample documents for your AI model to work. So if you only have 2 or 3, you won't be able to go to the next step and finish creating your model. So you need at least 5. And so we have 5 uploaded here. Select done. And I'll click next. And so this is the part that's really cool. We're actually going to select the different entities within our receipt that we want to extract. So give this a second to load here. All right, and so if you look on the right-hand side here, you can see that we have all of those fields that we initially created. We also have that table. So we basically want to tell our model what entities do we want to assign to these different fields and tables. So the first thing we have is our store name, right? So we can go over to our receipt, and if I hover over, you can see that it's actually recognizing each individual word on my receipt. So really cool. I'm going to go up to the top of the receipt where it says Aldi, that's my store name, and I'll select it, and then I can just assign it to one of those fields that I created. So assign it to store name, and we essentially just want to do that with all of these fields. So we got the address right below this. The address actually is compiled of multiple words, so I can just drag over all those words and select them as one entity like that. So if you have tags some multiple times, we can go try again here. And there we go. So you can see how it highlights each entity. All right, so total amount, go to the bottom, see our total here. We'll just select that. And lastly, we'll go ahead and get our purchase date. All right, so we got all of our fields extracted. Now we want to go ahead and get all of our list items and their prices. So if I just select one of these items and choose our table, what I can do is go ahead and drag this table across all of my items and prices. Right? If I come here, I can actually create those individual columns. And if you remember, we have two columns in our table. We have our items and our prices. And what I can do is select this column heading, and I can choose one of those two columns that I created in the beginning. So we want this to be our items and this to be our price. And if you look over here on the right, it's actually giving us a nice preview of what we are extracting. And so now what we're going to do is create the different rows in our table. So for each item and price, I can just create a row for it. And I can just go down, do this for each individual one. So I'll just speed this up a little bit. And there we go. And so you can see over here, we got all of those items and prices. And if you look at this, the fifth row here, you can see this is actually, for some reason in this receipt, it's telling us that we bought 8 of those black beans at 71 cents each, right? And we don't really need this row in our table. It might actually mess up our extraction if that is there. So what we can do is I can click on it and I can just ignore that row. And that won't be used. All right, so once we have tagged our table, everything looks good to go, we can click Done. All right, so now in practice, what you would do is you would go through each one of the receipts that you have uploaded and basically duplicate exactly what we just did on each of those receipts. And so that would give the model a good idea of what you're trying to take out. And so of course, the more images that you have, the better your AI model will be and the more accurate it will be. But we have 5, which will be good enough for this example. But I'm not going to go through each one of these. I've actually went ahead and did that for the sake of time today. So I'm just going to head and jump over to that tab where I have completed this step. All right, so you can see that there's check marks on each of those. I actually uploaded 7 documents into this one. But once we go ahead and tag them all, we can go ahead and go to the next step, where it gives you a summary of everything you have done, like the fields and the tables here. And what you can do is go ahead and train your model. So when you click train, it's going to go through each of those receipts. And it's going to train the model to extract that information that you have told it to take out. And so once you do that, you'll be ready to use your model. So the training process takes about 10 minutes, depending on how many images you have. But I went ahead and trained the model already. So again, we don't have to go through and wait for that to take its course. But we did that, and so once you train the model, it takes you to this kind of summary page, and it tells you how well your model is. And so right now, it looks like it's 83% accurate. And that's because we only have 7 pictures and we've only trained the model one time. But of course, if you keep adding pictures, keep going to the store, keep uploading your receipts, your model is going to get a lot more accurate in taking and extracting those different pieces of information. And you can actually see, we can go into more details and it'll tell you exactly how accurate it is for each individual entity that you're taking out. So it looks like it's not doing a very good job taking out the store address. So that might be something to consider. You might want to go back into your model and edit it and make sure that you're actually scanning the exact words on the receipt. All right, but once we've created our model, we're good to go. We can go ahead and start using this in either PowerApps or PowerAutomate. And so the first thing I want to show you is how we can use this inside of PowerApps. And so I actually have an app that I went ahead and already created inside of PowerApps. And if you're not familiar with PowerApps, that's completely fine. That's not a prerequisite for this webinar. But PowerApps in brief is another tool in the Power Platform that allows you to create these user interface applications. And so you can see here that I've created an app called Receipt Scanner. And so when a user opens up this application, they can go ahead and click to upload their receipt. And so I'm just going to go through the process of doing this as a user, and I'm just going to upload a receipt that I have. And so once the user uploads their receipt, they can push this process receipt button right below. And so when a user clicks this, it's actually going to take that image that we have uploaded and it's going to push it through that AI model that we created. And then, when it does that, it'll extract all of those different elements that we wanted in the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to process the receipt. And this does take just a little bit of time to kind of scan through the receipt and take out the necessary fields. All right, and then the app actually takes us to another page where we can actually see all of that information in separate fields. So we see the store name, store address, etc. We also see the total amount of items, which is neat, as well as all of those purchased items here. And so once we have all of our items here, we want to go ahead and put these somewhere in some type of data source. You might want to put these in an Excel worksheet or something like that. In today's example, though, what I've done is I've created a SharePoint list. And if you're not familiar with SharePoint lists, this is just a tool within SharePoint that allows you to create list items. And so I created a list called receipts, and I have a couple different fields within this list. And so this list is going to basically act as a database for all of the receipts that I upload through that app. And so we have all of those fields like store name, store address, total items, total price, and so on. So what I've done is I've connected that list to my application. And so when the user goes and pushes submit, it's going to take all of that extracted receipt information and push it to my SharePoint list. So if I click submit, the app actually goes to a page called all receipts. And this is where we can see all the receipts that we have uploaded thus far. And so we see the one that I just uploaded. I can click into it, view all the information, and then I can just go ahead and head back to the starting page and go ahead and upload more receipts. And so if we go look at the SharePoint list, you can see that that has successfully uploaded to SharePoint. So all that information is there. So we simply created an AI model that extracted receipts or receipt information, and then we stored it in a SharePoint list. And so you can imagine if you have a bunch of receipts or a bunch of documents, for instance, and you would manually have to put all of that inside of either a SharePoint list or an Excel worksheet or whatever, wherever you're storing that information, and that just takes such a long time. And so you could create this very simply, and it honestly didn't take us very much time to do that. It did take me a little bit of time to create this app, but honestly, not the same amount of time that it would take to upload, say 20 to 30 receipts and all that information. So this can really help you and make things a lot more efficient. All right, so we created that Power App. I also wanted to show you how we can use that AI model inside of a PowerAutomate workflow as well. And so again, if you're unfamiliar with PowerAutomate, this tool allows us to create business process workflows. And so I went ahead and created this workflow beforehand because this webinar is, of course, not how we can create PowerAutomate workflows. It's really just to show you what I did here and how this kind of works. So here's the workflow that I created. The first step in the workflow, all we have to do is go ahead and upload an image into this workflow, and then everything else happens automatically. And so the first step, or the second step really in our workflow, is utilizing that AI model. And you can see here the Aldi's receipt model, and it's basically going to take that image that we uploaded and put it through that model and extract all of that information. And then there's 3 other steps that I have that I've done in this workflow. I'm not going to go through what these are doing, but I'm basically just taking this information that I've extracted and just compiling it in a way that I can go ahead and start to use it in different ways. And if we look at the bottom of our workflow, we can see that this is actually sending an email of the receipt. And so in this case, we're going to send it to myself, and the subject is a new receipt has been uploaded. And in the body, you can see I'm actually getting those individual entities from our receipt, and I'm placing it in the body of the email. So essentially what this workflow is doing is exactly what that Power App is doing, but it's in more of a workflow format. So you might not always need that Power App user interface. You might just want a simple workflow that does the exact same thing. And it would take a lot less time to create a workflow than a whole application. So it just depends on your use case, what you need to build. But let's go and head back to that workflow, and we'll go ahead and test it out and show you how it works. And so in order to run my workflow, I need to upload an image. So again, I'm going to select a receipt, and I'm going to run the workflow. And so now it's going to go through each step in the workflow until it gets to the last one, where it's actually going to send me an email of all of that receipt information. Again, it just takes a little bit of time to get through this action here. But there we go. You can see that the flow has run successfully. And I actually have my email opened up in another tab, and we can see that I indeed received that email. And we have that different information. We also have that table with all of our items and prices. Alrighty. So there you go. We created an AI model from scratch in order to take all of that receipt information, extract it, and then we used it in a Power App and a PowerAutomate flow. So really cool stuff. I really hope you guys enjoyed kind of seeing that technology, and there's a lot of use cases that this could come in handy for. And keep in mind that this is only one of a lot of different models that Microsoft has for you to use. And so let's head back over to the slide deck here.
I was gonna say, Jeff, I actually have an example. So I
Yeah.
didn't know that some people actually call AI Builder your business's best kept secret, which seems like a little icing on the cake. But are there any business cases that you've experienced or examples that you can think of that are like I can think of, so an organization that's new to the cloud that has all of these old paper documents and invoices that they have no idea what to do with, but are required to keep on file or like for legal purposes or financial purposes. Like, can they, what do they do?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's what I think about when, especially with this model that I showed off today. Just, having all those documents and having to manually enter those into a database is super time consuming. And the fact that we can create this very honestly simple model that it's all visual. You don't have to use any code. You can just go in there and it takes you through the step-by-step process.
Well, the amount of efficiency, like that's just, especially someone new to the cloud, like that's just crucial in terms of their growth. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of other use cases. And so I actually have created a slide with a couple other ones I just kind of wanted to show off. That receipt scanner or whatever, might not be a use case that you would use, but again, there's so many other ones that use other models. And so I kind of just want to take you through a couple of these to give you a better idea here.
I would love it. Yeah. Teach us.
So the first one is creating an automated contact list. And so you do this using the business card reader model. And so maybe you have a bunch of business cards lying around and you want to go ahead and create contacts for each of those companies or personal individuals, people. You could go ahead and utilize this model. And so, maybe you have an application that takes a picture of these business cards and then creates a contact in Office 365. You could, use that model to do that. Maybe
So that's not even with like a barcode or anything. Like you just build the similar, like what you did with the receipt. You just,
Yeah, exactly. And so they actually have
all the old ones too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge for a lot of salespeople.
Yeah, exactly. This one is really cool, that the automated inventory taking. And there's a model called object detection in AI Builder, and you can actually you can take a picture of like a bunch of objects that you're taking inventory for. And the model will actually count all of those objects, and it could also like classify them into different like categories as well, which is really neat.
So even if you're taking a picture of the same object, it would pick up that it's a different, like it's the same object but a different.
Yeah, if it's just like if it just has a little difference.
It's the same object but a different object.
Exactly. Okay. And so if you go and actually, go through the same process, you'll go through the same process that we did if you're creating a custom model, and you'll actually kind of point out those differences inside the model, and then it would be able to, recognize that each time.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's just.
Yeah. It's neat that you can use this really powerful, honestly complex technology, and you don't have to, you can be.
No, it was
less technical.
Yeah, to the audience's point, when we first did a dry run of this, I was so intimidated by the concept of AI Builder because I don't use AI at all, and it was way easier to follow than I realized. And that all includes to Jeff because he does a great job explaining it. But yeah, it's a lot easier than I realized, which I guess is the whole point of the webinar. But Jeff, kudos to you and Microsoft.
Yeah, and so we have a couple other ones I'll just tell you about, but the third one here is identifying and classifying customer feedback. So, and you can do this through the sentiment analysis model, which I've used this one a good amount. And so basically, maybe you have a bunch of customer reviews. You can actually throw these into a model that'll tell you exactly what the sentiment of those reviews are. So whether they are positive, negative, neutral, and actually give you a percentage, whether it's maybe all of these reviews are a 67% positive or something like that. And, you can make business decisions based off those findings. So that's a really cool one.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, so I didn't realize that Gosh, now I'm thinking of all of these business. We could go on and on about business use scenarios. Like I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and like take everyone out of the hour that we have. But yeah, this applies to way more than I had previously thought until talking through this.
Yeah, and there are a lot more that we could go into, but these are just four the ones that I found, and then I've used in my day-to-day, just kind of messing around more with AI Builder. But the last one,
you use identify fraudulent transactions in your day-to-day life.
Not that one. Haven't used that in my day-to-day life. But
how does that one work?
I have used the prediction model that you use in order, to take care of this use case. But yeah, so maybe you have a bunch of Excels with some transactions. You could put this through the prediction model, and it could, give you to predict outcomes. So maybe you know on hand that what a fraudulent transaction looks like, and so you could go ahead and tag that inside of your AI model, and every time you upload those transactions, it could identify which ones might be fraudulent, and so that would be useful, obviously.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's useful, yeah. Hopefully. That's awesome. Those are great scenarios. And then I think we had a couple more. Could you think of, I mean, you can basically store any digital online file or of any kind through an AI, depending on the AI model, but like basically any digital, you can build anything. I worded that wrong, but I'm
So
just
you can use any,
in the last like 20 minutes, I've learned a lot that I didn't realize.
So basically you're asking if you can, no matter what type of document,
no matter what,
So when we went through the whole creation process, we chose structured document in this particular case, because receipts have that same format each time. But no, I've tested this out with unstructured, just basic documents, that don't have that structured format like receipts do.
Can you give an example of an unstructured document? Sorry, for someone like me, what is an unstructured document?
Yeah, so I think they gave a couple examples. Like just no, you're good. Like just a page of just like paragraphs that are just spread out in different places. They don't have that structured format.
Oh my gosh, you were that. Okay, never. I get it. Okay, sorry. Okay,
good.
so another one. So what types of documents or file types can the AI model use today process? I think we kind of just talked about this, but you said that all of them basically, right?
Yeah, and in terms of the document processing model that we use today, like I uploaded JPEG files, and to be familiar with those, just different types of picture files that you can use. And there's three. You can use JPEGs. You can also use there's two other picture files that you can use. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there's two other types of images that you can upload.
I was gonna say, if you don't think of them now, they're recording to this, and I'll get to my Q&A spiel later. But we will get the answer. But so, this is a good one actually. Can I extract handwritten text from documents?
Yes, you can. Yep. The question that is,
wow.
Yes. And so, yeah, so that works. I've tested that before, and obviously it depends on good handwriting, of course.
Yeah.
If it's sloppy, it's obviously not going to detect.
How sloppy is too sloppy, and how manicured. Oh, that's cool. That's a huge legal use case too.
Like signatures and stuff like that.
So, and then last one I have right now. So, and everyone in the audience. So, if you have any more questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A function in Teams, where I've already posted Jeff's previous Power Platform webinars, which are all amazing. But so if you're still wanting to demo AI Builder in your environment, or you're trying to build an AI model but you don't have the data, does Microsoft is there sample data? Is there a way to like test it, or
So obviously you can use those pre-built models, and you don't have to actually have data in order to train the models. They're already trained with sample data that Microsoft has used. So they're going to work, with obviously you're creating the model to use with data. So you're going to have data being used eventually, right? So
Yeah.
but in order for the model
I
to
could see
actually work-
organizations like wanting to test it in their environment with sample data until they like actually deploy. I could see that. But
exactly, yeah, and you can with the pre-built models, yeah.
well, that was the last question I had, and I have not seen any in the chat. And Jeff, thank you. You were awesome on the spot. Those were awesome business scenarios and a lot of questions thrown your way that I think you didn't expect a lot of the audience came at you. But thank you everyone so much for joining us. So you will receive a recording to this webinar by tomorrow, and it will be on our YouTube channel as well as social media. Please be sure to follow us on social media. And I don't know if we have a topic for next month yet, Jeff, but if we do, but thank you again so much for joining us. And if you have any more questions, you have my email and Jeff's, I think, at the beginning, and we will connect you with the appropriate person. But thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Jeff, awesome job. Thank you so much for that. That was an amazing demo.
Thank you.